I've taught you different things that you can go back home upon and try to put them into practice. But today, I'm going to now put the icing on the cake for all of you so that when you go back home, you will find a lot more meat to be able to eat from today's session. So, investment in real estate. Where do I start? I will start with my journey into property, and I'm sure my journey will be familiar to some of you or even most of you. My journey into property started way back from my childhood. I was raised by a single mom. When I hear people say, rich dad, poor dad, I simply say, I had no dad. But I had uncles in my corner. And Tayo's dad was one of the uncles in my corner back in those days. Most of our kids born in UK have it so easy, especially those that have both parents. They have a dad and they have a mom, and they're being raised by both parents. They have it so easy. I didn't have it easy. I saw affluence and I saw poverty. There are days when we eat rice and we eat it with stew and we have meat, and I'll eat gracefully with appreciation. And there are days when we will eat rice in a concussion way. We put a bit of onion on top, and we pour a bit of oil into that rice as well and stir it together. I saw all those growing up. One of those memories that lingers with me up to now was my mom would tell me that we have to move houses, and I would say, really? Move houses? Why? And she would say, because the landlord have served us notice. And I would say, why again? And she would say, because they've increased the rent, and she can't afford the increase. The worst house we ever lived in was a house with no window. I think a few of you that lived in Nigeria might be familiar with a house with no window. It's just a nylon cover. When it's cold, I get the cold. And when it rains, I have the rain inside my room as well. But fair to my mom, my late mom, every house we ever lived in was always a flat. I never experienced the face me, I face you that most people experienced back in those days. And that was my journey into property. Now, fast forward, I've got to paraphrase a few things. Back in 1998, I found myself in United Kingdom because I was born here actually. So I just said, it's time to go back home. After 3 years of legal practice in Sokoto, working with Aminu Waziri Tambua, a lovely guy, I had to say, look, Aminu, it's time to go back home. I'm returning back to UK. I've served you guys. I've done marvelously for your law firm, but I don't think I can sustain life in Nigeria with the wage of around about £50. I think my wage back in Nigeria in 1998, working in a law firm, was around about 5,000 a month. I wasn't married then. I was a single man. So I was thinking, it's time to go back. So 98, I came back to United Kingdom. and started all over again. In 98, the first house I ever lived in was a flat, 15th floor. The lift doesn't get to my floor. The lift only stops on the 14th floor. When the lift stops on the 14th floor, I've got to climb the stairs onto the 15th floor. And that is when that journey started. When I'm going up the lift to the 15th floor, I will see poo on the floor, on the stairway. I will see wee on the stairway. I will see condoms on the stairway. I will see gangsters hanging around on the stairway. And I was just saying to myself, is this how my life is going to be? Deja vu? A carbon copy of my mom struggling as well with life? So one day I went to the council and I said, look, can you do something about this flat? I'm paying my rent. Why should I have to experience all this living in this flat? And the woman looked at me, just like I'm looking at most of you now. The woman looked at me and said, Mr. Ojori, you have a good job. The interest rates are so low. Why not buy your own property? And I looked at her, I listened to her, I agreed with her. As much as the heart is willing, the bank is not willing. So when I look at my account says no, the heart says yes. But I did something strange. I went to Barclays Bank and I said, can I have a loan for £10,000? They said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to buy a car. I was given a loan of £10,000. I kept that loan in my account for a few months. Then I saw a property. Then we bought our first property in 2002. Welcome to real estate. I'll continue that story. What is real estate? Real estate has 4 elements to it. There is residential property, there is commercial property, there is industrial property, and there are lands. When it comes to residential property, that is the one you're familiar with. That is the house we live in. That is the house some of you rent. That's the house some of you have bought. That is the common one, residential property. Then we have commercial property. That's the part of real estate. Commercial property involves the shops. The shops where you buy your foodstuff is commercial property. It's part of real estate. The schools you take your children to is commercial property. The offices where some of you work is a commercial property. And that's commercial property on its own. Then we have industrial properties. You should all be familiar with industrial property because we are in an industrial estate. This is an industrial estate. So all the buildings surrounded by you are industrial properties. There's a difference between commercial and industrial. Most industrial properties pay less when it comes to taxes, business rates. They pay less, while commercial pay a lot more. And finally, we have lands. Lands you're familiar with it. I'm sure if I start doing a test in this room to see how many people in this room have lands in Nigeria, I'm sure I probably will see almost all the hands up. But not just lands. If I ask how many people have houses in Nigeria, I'm sure I will see a lot more hands up as well. And if I ask how many of you are building houses in Nigeria, I'm sure I will see a lot more hands up as well. So we have lands. And that is the four main elements that makes up real estate. I'm going to do a quick test in the room. Don't be shy, because it will help me to pitch my message more carefully. How many people in this room here have at least one property? Can you put your hand up if you have at least one property in UK, United Kingdom? Okay, I can see a few hands. Good. Yeah. How many people in this room are renting a house in United Kingdom? Can I see your hands up? Okay, I can see a lot of men. We have some work to do. The target, the goal, the mission today is that before I come back to this church, you've already bought a house, you're a homeowner, and better still, you could have bought 2 houses and become a landlord. And don't say it's impossible, sir, to buy 2 houses, because every year I try to buy 2 houses in a year. That is my goal. And I try to do my business at the first quarter of the year. This year, I've already bought one in May, all done and dusted, even rented out. Tenant has moved in. I should complete on my second one by the end of this month, July. And I might do Mission Impossible. I might even go on to the 3rd one this year, possibly. I might just do 3 in 1 year. So the mission is for each of you to be a homeowner. And don't despise yourself, because if you hear my own humble beginning, who are you not to own your own house as well? Why should you be paying rent? Why should you be paying rent which is twice the amount of mortgages? Why should you? If you can afford to pay those rents, you should be afford to pay your mortgage as well. And that is the reason why I'm here today. Now, sorry, I will take questions at the end. Please, reserve your questions to the very end. Now, I see a lot of men. I see a lot of faces looking at me, staring at me. And I'm sure most of those will take my number at the end. And most of those will follow my Instagram at the end as well. But what I want you to do, don't just look at me. Get your notepads out and take notes. Knowledge is power. If that power is used in the right way, it becomes money. Most of what I know today, if I've known it years back, I probably might have doubled my portfolio. And you're probably thinking, how many does he have? The son of a single mother. You will hear how many I have later on. But make notes, because those notes will help you to be more informed. It will help you to take the right steps towards your own property journey as well. And that is why we are here. Okay. What are the benefits of property investment? There are different benefits for different people. Let me start with the first one, passive income. When you invest in property, you obtain, you receive what is called passive income. Passive income is a recurring income. By virtue of you investing your money into property, you get passive income on a monthly basis. And to God be the glory, I get enough of it. When I look in my account on a monthly basis, I see 14 tenants paying rent into my account for 14 different houses in different cities. And that is what passive income is. The reason why passive income is important to me is because I have a large family. I'm a man. I'm a breadwinner. I'm a provider. I have 4 boys and a girl. And there is no way I can raise my kids, my children, my family on just one income. So I had to roll my sleeve and find the best hustle for me. And the best hustle for me is property investment. And that is what I went into. So I get passive income on a monthly basis. I get rental income. Rental income is the rent that the tenants pay on a monthly basis by virtue of renting out my house. Even, let's assume you bought your first house and you're a single man and you buy like a 2-bedroom house or you buy a 3-bedroom house, you can rent out the spare rooms to get some rental income. I won't use the word rent. I will use the word you can take in a lodger into that spare room. And the lodger is paying towards your mortgage and is paying towards your bill. Because a lot of you are thinking, but I can't afford to pay a mortgage. I can't afford it. There are different ways you can afford it. Buy a 2-bedroom, being a single man. Don't just buy 2-bedroom and reserve 1 room for relatives in Nigeria to come and stay in that room. Take in a lodger into that spare room and get rental income on that property. One important benefit of property investment is capital appreciation. Let me put that into context. Capital appreciation. For those of you who are not making notes, I'm sure I will ask Pastor Lekon not to give you the slides, oh. So you better start writing your notes. And if you want to screenshot as well. And for those taking picture, please, at least take 1 or 2 of my pictures and send to me afterwards. So kindly be kind to me. Take 1 of my pictures and send to me afterwards, please. Thank you. Capital appreciation. What does that mean? The first house we bought in 2002, we bought that house for £94,000 in 2002. But along the line, we grew into that house, and the house became too small for us. So I had my first son, then we had our first set of twins, and we had another set of twins. So we have 2 sets of twins and our first son, 4 boys and a girl. You won't be, I'm trying to find the word. You won't be surprised to know that I've got 2 sets of, because it runs in the family. Tayo's sister has got twins. Tayo's brother has got twins. I just toppled the whole thing and have 2 sets of them. They have 1 set each. I just doubled everything that they have and have 2 sets. So the first house we bought in 2002, we bought it for $94,000. It was a 2-bedroom house. We were 7. How did we cope then? We had, our master bedroom was very big. So we had our main bed, which was a king size, and we had 2-cot bed. So our last set of twins were in their 2-cot bed, and myself and my wife were on our king size bed. And the second room was a bunk bed. So there was single up, double down. And that's how we survived. 7 of us living in a 2-bedroom house. But all that while, I also had other houses, but they were all 2 bedrooms. So I kept going through the motion. What should I do? Which of those houses could I extend? Should I extend it? Should I do a love conversion? Should I do this? Should I do that? Anyway, to cut the long story short, in 2016, we decided to sell the house. So we sold the house for 274,000. 274,000. We bought the house for 94,000, sold for 274,000 pounds. I've been in UK. I came back to UK in 1998 because I was born here. Since I've been in UK, I can't remember anyone knocking on my door and say, Mr. Tokes, take 1,000 pounds. I can barely count 10 people. But you can imagine, on my own, on one house, we bought the house for 94, sold for 274. 180,000. For those of you calculating, before you start thinking, uncle, you have to pay capital gains tax. I didn't have to pay capital gains tax. The reason being, I sold my main house to buy another main house. So as a result, I don't have to pay capital gains tax. And that's how I escape capital gains tax. Not escape it, but that's the law anyway. So that is capital appreciation. The difference between how much you bought a house and how much you sold a house is called capital appreciation. For those of you doing Bitcoin, Lord Jesus Christ, crikey. I wonder how many people would have made that kind of money from Bitcoin. For those of you doing crypto, I wonder how many people would have made such money from crypto without being on high blood pressure medication. Because crypto and Bitcoin and shares, you're checking your phone every sort of minute. I'm sure when you wake up in the morning, before you pray to God, the first thing you're looking at is your phone. What's the market saying? I don't have to do that with property. I just have to wake up and look at my phone and see whether I've got any text from a tenant. Because when you have a big portfolio, something is bound to go wrong in terms of repairs. So I just check my phone to see, do I have any message from a tenant that I have to deal with? But my heart is not on my sleeves like those that do crypto, Bitcoin, stocks and shares, who are always looking at the phone because the market is going up and down. When Donald Trump sneezes, then the market jumps, the market goes wobbly. The only thing with real estate is, as long as you can see your property is not burnt, it is an asset. It's an asset. And that is the way I see real estate. The next benefit of property investment is retirement plan. Real estate, to me, is a business. And that, to me, is my retirement plan. Pastor Leko introduced me generously as a solicitor. I think I left that wig and gown back in Nigeria in 1998. I haven't picked up that wig and gown since I came back to UK in 98. I don't even know where it is. But I'm like most of you. I have a 9 to 5. You probably were thinking, with that amount of property, you still have a 9 to 5. Yes. Because we're talking about multiple streams of income. We're not just looking at one income stream. And do not despise your humble beginning for those of you that have a 9 to 5, because that 9 to 5 helped me to build that portfolio that I have today. Anytime I'm buying a property, even up to last month, my broker will still ask me, can I see your pay slip? Can I see your bank statement? That pay slip comes from my 9 to 5. That pay slip comes from the jobs that you all do. I'm sure a few of you probably would have left your 9 to 5 thinking, I've arrived. I have 14 houses. What else do I need? I just need to wake up in the morning, go and do ayo alokma. Go and just play, yeah, play Ludo, play, chat, catch up with friends. But no, the hustle is real. It's a continuous process. The moment you get to the pinnacle and you think you've arrived, that's the beginning of the slope. So it's a continuous process. So for me, property investment is a retirement plan. Now, this is the part that will interest most of you. Okay, uncle, you're saying before I come back next time, I must buy at least one property. But how do I buy that one property? How do I buy the property? There are two ways in which you can buy a house in United Kingdom. Pastor Leko, can you get a picture for me, please, with your phone? Just one or two pictures. Thank you. How can I buy a property in United Kingdom? There are two ways. One is cash. That is the most complex one. Let's go there. Most of you have cash. Some of you have assets back in Nigeria. Some of you have money coming from abroad. Some of you have different means of generating your cash. Some of you men even do what is called ajo. We'll address all those today. If you're buying a property with cash in United Kingdom, one, if you have to buy a property and you have to put down 10% deposit or 25% deposit, which is cash as well, two, then you have to be able to evidence the source of that cash. If you cannot evidence the source of that cash, you can go to a Range Rover shop and go and buy the latest Range Rover. You can take your wife to a shop and get her the latest Gucci, Prada. Nobody will ask you a question about where the money came from. But if you're buying a property in the United Kingdom, if you cannot provide the paper trail behind that money, they will not accept your cash. You have to be able to show a paper trail of how you accumulated that money. If you can't show it, it's not obtainable. Why? The solicitor acting for you is being audited. So they have to be able to show in their files that they've checked the source of your funds. Why? Because of money laundering. Why? Because Nigeria is among the list of countries that have been blacklisted. So if you can't evidence the source of any money you use to buy a property, it will not be accepted. So that's number one. Now, mortgage. If you're not writing anything, write it down. If you have a sharp memory like a fish, better still. What are the criteria for getting a mortgage? Number one, you have to be employed or self-employed. So there are two options there. You're either in a 9-to-5 or you have your own business. But I would expand on that one. If you're self-employed and you're doing what is called cash in hand, and you're not paying tax on that income, you cannot buy a property with it. Any money you're going to use as your income has to be an income you're paying tax on in United Kingdom. So that's quite important. So to get a mortgage, you must be employed or self-employed. I need to move that slide. Yeah. You must be employed or self-employed. That's number one. Number two, you must have a good credit. And that is where my community falls short, unfortunately. When I say my community, I see a lot of them. They come to me on my Instagram. Uncle, what is a good credit? Uncle, how do I improve my credit? Uncle, I have a bad credit. Uncle this, uncle that. I'm not saying you must have a perfect credit. What I'm saying is that you must have a good credit. Then I get another question. Okay, uncle, what is a good credit? The answer is right in front of you. For most of you that have got a credit app, if you read your reports every month, it will tell you where things are good. It will tell you where things are not good. So it's down to you to address those areas where things are not good. That is what gets you a good credit. So that is a very important criteria. Now, how do our people get bad credit in United Kingdom? Our people will come into UK. Within a year, they probably will buy, I'm just trying to think of something. Within a year, they will take out credit cards. They will max you up. They will max up their credit card. They probably will take cash on it, send to Nigeria to build houses. They will take cash on it to go on holiday because they don't understand the system. They would max up their credit card to the extent that they're struggling. And that is why most of our people struggle to get on the property ladder, because they've mashed up like mashed potato their credit score or their credit. For those of you that are in this room and you don't have a credit app, I use ClearScore and it's free. Some of you go and pay to get the best one, Experian, because you're looking for a different result. Some of you, even in this room, have more than one app that's tracking your credit, because the first one told you it is not good. You went to open another one, hoping to get a different result. The more apps you're opening, it has a bad effect on your score. So stick to one app. If it says it is bad, improve it. Read it from one page to another. Understand the reason why it's bad and address it. Couple of things that improve your credit score in United Kingdom is that the address you're living, you have to be on the electoral roll. And there are some Shylock of a landlord that will say, do not use my house to enroll on the electoral roll. If you're paying that landlord rent, use the address, because it will help you in the long run. This one applies to those people that are renting a room and sharing with the landlord or other tenants. Stop being a traveler. Don't be a gypsy. If you live in one address today, in 2 months' time you've moved to another address again, and you keep moving like a traveler, like a gypsy, it's not going to work in your favor, because you're being seen as someone who is too transient, unsettled, unreliable, and they can't give you credit at all, because they're thinking, if we give this person money, they might just move and run away. You need to be seen being stable at one particular address. That's going to help you to build your credit score. If you're given a credit card and you're told you can obtain £1,000, that's your limit, do not take $950 on that card. Abba. Use 300, 400 on a monthly basis. And when you use that money, pay it back. Don't just pay the barest minimum, because again, it shows you're struggling. And if you're struggling, you're not giving yourself any confidence in the eyes of a lender. The longer it takes you to pay off any credit, the expensive it becomes. And at times, it can become a monster. So be wary. What I say to people that I mentor is, if you're given a credit card of 1,000, instead of you going to a shop with your cash, If you're trying to build your credit score up, go to the shop with your credit card, buy the goods with your credit card, and use that cash to pay back. If you're repeating that process over and over again, a lender will say, oh, this person is reliable. We can borrow their money. And that's when you find that at times they will increase your loan amount from 1,000 to 5, from 5 to 10. And that's how it happens. But again, be careful not to take as many cards as possible. Because some of you do it. Probably I did it as well in the past. But when I did it back in those days, I was not reckless with it. I just had it for the sake of, yes, I need to have it in case I need to do any projects on properties. So just be wary. Still on good credit, the best way to live life in United Kingdom, first of all, invest in assets. Then use the profit from your assets to fund your lifestyle. If you do it the other way around, which means invest in liabilities, unfortunately, by the time you're maxed up in liability, you can't invest in assets again because lenders are dragging you. And you're just about paying the barest minimum every month on all those credits you've taken. It's not just credit card. It's car finance, it's car loan, it's all those payday loans that people take. Don't do it. And if you've done it in the past, correct yourself. Change your ways. That is going to help you a lot. If you're looking to buy a property, you must save at least 10% deposit. In some instances, some lender will accept 5%, but I always tell people that I mentor, have at least 10% deposit. You probably say, Uncle, 10% of what? Is 10% of the value of the house you're looking to buy. Let's assume you see a house that is £100,000. You want to buy it. You need to save £10,000. So for those of you that are trying to put it into context, you might want to write it down. You see a house, 100K, you want to buy that house. How much do you need to close that deal? You need £10,000 as a deposit to buy the house, number one. You need 1,200 to pay your solicitor, number two. You need 490 to pay a broker, number three. What else? As a first-time buyer, you're not paying stamp duty. Where do I switch off the mic? Just 1 minute. So, as a first-time buyer, you don't have to pay stamp duty because you're buying your first property, the first one in the whole world. And those are the things that you have to pay for if you're buying a property. It's as cheap as that. So you could see a house 100K, you're probably just paying less than 14K. You're putting down 10% deposit. The bank is putting down 90% deposit. And that is why you have to be reliable as someone borrowing money from the bank. And the last criteria is that you must have lived in United Kingdom for at least 24 months to get a mortgage. If you came in like last year, they won't give you a mortgage because you're still relatively new anyway. And if you get a mortgage, the interest rate might be very, very high to start with. So those are the criteria for getting a mortgage. There is one other thing I need to add to that criteria. I think it might be my next slide. Let me just check my next slide. Okay, I think I've covered this already. The conditions for buying with cash. Yeah, I've covered that already. Now, one thing I need to add. Is it there? Okay, it's there. If you meet the 4 criteria that was on the slide earlier on, you need to speak to a broker. Most of you are scared of speaking to a broker because you're thinking, how much will he charge me again to speak to a broker? My broker will not charge you a penny until you bought a house. The day he hears you've bought a house, you get a phone call from their office and you pay them £490. So that is how to do it. Some brokers in our community are full of fraud and all sorts of things. They'll be charging you percentages. Some will charge you $5,000 to buy a house. Some will even charge you a percentage of the mortgage on an ongoing basis. My broker, for all the houses I bought, only stick to one broker. And they only charge me $190 per any house I bought, and it's a one-off payment. So if you have any broker that's asked $490, and it's one-off, and you only pay that $490 when you've bought a house, you don't pay it earlier than buying a house. And those are people that want to do the work, not our Niger people that will say, come and we will do pay slip. we will do the accounts for you and all the nonsense that goes with it. So if you're looking to buy a house and you need to connect with my broker, all I simply do is I'll just take your email address through WhatsApp, and I will send an email to the broker called the referrer. I'll refer you to the broker, CC you into that email, and the broker will get in touch with you. And we take it forward from there. So speak to a broker. Like I said, it's free to speak to a broker. Now, one important point. When it comes to buying a house, what is the maximum loan a lender will give you? The maximum loan a lender will give you to buy a house is your annual income before tax multiplied by 4.5. That's the maximum they will give you to buy a property. Your annual income before tax multiplied by 4.5. Anything above that will cause affordability issue. If you take more than you can chew, that is where some people struggle to keep up with payments. With my 14 mortgages, I've not missed a single payment, and everything is by direct debit. But anyway, to God be the glory. Tenants are still paying the rent, so with the tenants paying the rent, that rent will service the mortgage. And even if I don't have any tenants in a property, whatever I've saved will still pay for that mortgage. So that's quite important. Now, here is a big topic, a big debate in our community. How do we buy a house? Should we buy it in a personal name or should we buy it in a company name? Your first house has to be bought in your personal name. Forget about any tax savings that you want to save. You cannot save anything on your first house in terms of taxes. Your first house is owned by you. It's not owned by the company. So your first house has to be bought in your personal name. Your subsequent houses could be bought in a company name because the data we've seen shows that buying properties in a company name is more tax efficient. For example, people like us that made the mistake of buying houses in our personal name back in those days. And because I've got income elsewhere, over £50,000, I'm paying 40% taxes on my rental income. Whereas the houses that I'm now buying nowadays in a company name, I only pay 20% tax on them. So that's the difference between buying in a personal name and buying in a company name. How do you find the right property? There are different ways to find the right property. One, direct to vendor. Direct to vendor means while I'm here, somebody might come to me and say, oh, Uncle Tokes, I want to, when you hear Tokes anyway, because most people call me Tokes on Instagram or social media. Tokes come from the word Tokumbo, someone who is born in UK and went back to Nigeria. Tokes. So I might be here and someone will say, oh, Uncle Tokes, I have a house. I want to sell that house. And if I'm negotiating with the person and we agree on the terms and condition, the price and everything, that is direct to vendor. Okay. Yeah, that is direct to vendor. So that's one way to find the right property. Number two is through auctions. I bought houses severally at auctions. Believe it, I bought with a mortgage, not cash. Most of you think buying a house at auction means you must have your cash handy. It helps to have the cash to hand because the cash is your contingency plan. Because at times things go wrong. I remember last year I was trying to buy a house at auction last year. £75,000 was the house. My broker has already instructed the lender. The lender went there to try to get me a mortgage. The lender downvalued the house. But I knew what I saw. So I said, no, that house is worth more than what the lender said it is. But by the time I got another lender involved, it was too late. I had like 1 week to go. At that time, because I won the bid, I've already paid almost £8,000 to the auctioneer. That money is non-refundable. So if you're going to auction, you must know what you're doing. That's number one. If you're going to auction, you must have done your due diligence. That's number two. If you're going to auction, you must have read the special conditions. That's number three. Because all those things, there are some hidden costs somewhere along the line that you have to pay. So it's important that you know what you're doing before you go to auctions. I remember a friend of mine lost our deposit because we saw a house. And unfortunately, she bidded a day too early. By the time she went to view the house, it's not what she was expecting. So she pulled out. But that deposit was not refundable. So it's part of your due diligence. Before you commit to something, go and view it, estimate the cost of repair, look at how much it will cost to fix it before you start making a bid. So you can factor that into it. Don't be arrogant when you're bidding at auction. For example, imagine myself and Pastor Tayo trying to buy a property at auction. So when they say 10, Tayo puts her hand up. And I'm saying, I brought me Tayo now. She can't defeat me. So I said, when they say 15, I quickly put my hand up. When they say 20, she puts her hand up, 20. And I'm thinking, how can my sister beat me at this auction? So when it's 25, I put my hand up again. You must be disciplined. You must have a cutoff point when it comes to bidding at auction. You must have a point where it makes no sense again to bid. It's not about you being arrogant to say, I must win that house at all costs. It's about you thinking, does it make any sense at all to buy at that price, having to do some repairs on the house again? So auction is another way of getting property. Estate agent is another way of getting property. Most of the houses I bought some through estate agents as well. And mostly when I go knocking on their door, they know that I'm a serious buyer. So definitely, they will always at least give me the attention. And finally, is through a deal sourcer. A deal sourcer is someone that you employ to help you to go and find the right property negotiate the price, and just hand over to you. That is a dissociator. So that is 4 ways to find the right property. But in any houses you're buying, aim to buy it below the market value. You must find a way of understanding what the market value is. If you buy above the market value, it's a dangerous place to be. There is one thing that I want to cover on that topic. I think it's escaped me for now, but it will come back anyway. Find the right property. Yes, I remember it. My community, my so-called fellow Africans, when they want to buy a house, I will try and speak Yoruba, but I'm going to speak English as well. When they're trying to buy a house, they don't want to buy a house that they can fix. They will go and buy a new build property and say, Pastor Leko, come and bless my house. See, this is our guest toilet downstairs. This is our kitchen. It's so lovely. This is the ensuite. Help me to bless it with anointing oil. This is our bedroom. It's got ensuite as well. That is the kids' room. That is the study. Everything is sparkling. Even to put on the heater, we have to press one remote. To put on the light is a sensor. If you just have to walk underneath the light and it comes on. That is what some of you will say. And someone like me, I will walk into a house, probably dilapidated. A house that most of you will walk into and will say, oh, my darling, let's come out of here. Let's go. We can't buy this house. If we buy this house, how can we show our friends? When our friend comes around, is this the house we say we bought? That's the kind of house I will buy. Because I've got the insight and I've got the foresight. So I'm thinking, okay, the bathroom needs changing. If I go to B&Q and go and buy the materials myself, I can buy a complete bath set, bathroom, basin, for less than £1,000. Less than £1,000. Less than. I'm looking at kitchen. I'm not going to Howdens to go and buy my kitchen. I'm going to B&Q and I'll buy all the flat pack. And I'll make up the kitchen. Better still, I can look at the old kitchen that is there correctly. And these are a few tricks I'm teaching you. And take out the doors. And just go to B&Q and buy brand new doors and hinges and handles. And before you know it, buy a new worktop for the kitchen. Buy some splashback ties. Before you know it, I've got a brand new kitchen. Buy a new sink. Whereas a few of you will go to Howdens and go and buy kitchen 10,000, you're paying for that kitchen for another 5 years every month. I don't do that. I've never done that. There is a cost-effective way and there is the expensive way to do things. So if you're buying a house, buy a house below the market value. Every street have its value. We have the high value, we have the mid value, and we have the lower end. Aim to buy the lower end or the mid value. Don't buy at the top end. Who are you impressing? Who are we impressing? Don't forget, when you buy to impress, it is you that will have to pay that mortgage for another 25 years. And it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. There's nothing like, I want to take a break. There's no break. And if you miss payments, and it's a continuous miss payment, that house can be repossessed. When I go and buy a house below the market value, and I add value to that property, I will have equity in my property from day one. I will have plus. You probably will be in a minus. And that is the story for most people. Because when you go and buy a new build is like, you see a Range Rover You see a Range Rover 2000 reg, 25,000 mileage. They said it's 10,000. And you see a Range Rover 25 reg, 0 mileage, and is 100,000. And you go and buy that Range Rover. The car will still do the same job. It will take you from A to Z. It's just a difference in price. So don't do that to yourself. But if you have got to a stage in life whereby you think you have enough assets to offset your liability, then you can do that. Because, again, enjoy your wealth as well. Why not? You work hard for it. But if you're just starting out in life, don't do that to yourself. The first car I had in UK was a Mazda 323. The second car I had in UK was a Mazda 323. The third car I had in UK was a Mazda 5 and a Vauxhall, but both are 7-seater because we are 7. Don't forget we are 7. The first time I bought my Mercedes car was when I turned 50. That's when I owned a Mercedes car as a start. But all that while, I had assets. It just didn't cross my mind to buy a Mercedes. And I think just last year, I just said to myself, let me just treat myself, Jerry. Life is for the living, Jerry. Then I went to go and buy a Volvo XC90. Went to the shop and just bought the car. So the best way to live life is, like I said earlier on, first of all, invest in assets and use the profit to fund your lifestyle. Next slide. The best formula for those that own a house already, that are in the room, the best formula to grow your portfolio from one to many is called BRRR. The first B means you buy a property below the market value. You buy it cheap. The first R means you do up that property, refurbish the property. The next R means you rent out that property. And the last R means you refinance that property. So let me put that into context. Last year, when I was trying to buy that property at auction, and the auction didn't go through, I had to buy the house with cash. I had to find cash to buy that house for $75,000. After I bought the house, I had to do some work on the property as well. After the works were completed, I rented it out. I left it for 6 months. Then I got a valuer to go in. The valuer valued the house at $100,000. I just was being conservative. They said, how much do you think is worth? I said, it's worth $100,000. How much do you want back? I said, I want my $75K back. So I got my $75K back in cash and gained the house. Because when you're buying a house, it's called 75% loan to value. You must always leave 25% of the value of that house in that property. But you can pull out 75%. So I pulled out all that money. And that is how BRA works. I bought a house below the market value, $75,000. I spent probably less than $10K to do it up. I refurbished the property. That means I did it up. I rented it out to tenants. It was bringing in rental income. And I refinanced it and pulled out all my $75K. I've gained the house. I got my money back. That's how to grow that portfolio. And I'm now recycling that money again. So that is why you can hear me saying I already bought, almost buy my second house this year, because I'm recycling that money back into property. I'm not one of those that will collect money and go on a cruise. I think the last time my passport was stamped to Nigeria was 2019. And I had to go and bury my dad in 2019. And that's when I went to Nigeria last. Nigeria is an expensive place to go to. Most of you go to Nigeria, you do a job, save your money, roll it up, then go and spend the money in Nigeria and come back and your bill are waiting. The last time I went to Europe was 2022, and I think I went to Spain. I'm not just a traveler, but I can drive my car to anywhere. I've just came back from Preston this afternoon. I can drive my car to anywhere. But just tell me that there's tickets, and probably will be looking at that ticket for another 1 year. I think I even have a voucher. I have a BA voucher on my account since 2022. And they keep renewing the voucher for me because I've not even used it. You have to be wise. You have to be prudent. If you have parents back home that are still young, that are not too old, you can bring them over. Instead of you going over, you can bring them over on holiday. It's cheaper that way. When you go home, it's more expensive. I'm not dictating your life for you because I get told off on my Instagram. I think I remember recording a video on Instagram saying, stop buying houses in Nigeria. And I got petted with so many abuses. Uncle Talks, why would you say that? The reason why I would say that is, if you're here and you're trying to build a house in Nigeria, you're paying like 3 or 4 times the same price if you're not there. If you're unlucky, you might not even see a house at all. You might just get promises, and one day you go home and the reality just dawns that there is no house. If you're very unfortunate, they might even build a house, but probably your siblings are living there with their wife and kids, and they'll just say, Uncle, you're abroad now. You're plucking this money from the tree now. Abba, please, let us be. And your mom will say, Abba, Taju, feel fun now, now, feel fun. You know, all those stories. The emotional stories. So, yeah. But don't get me wrong. I've got houses in Nigeria and I have lands in Nigeria. But I did something that most of you probably wouldn't do to get those houses. One is that when I first came to UK, at a point in time, before I got into property, I was selling laptops. With my day job, I would go to cash converter, buy laptops, send it back home to sell. BlackBerry phone, I sold many of them. Projector, I sold many of them as well. But when I do a Nigeria business, I don't bring that money back here. I leave it. Owabu, Abulongbe, I leave it back here and use that money to invest back home. And better still, I also use part of my rental income here to fund my projects in Nigeria. And that's the best way to do things. And that is my contact details for those that need it. If you check my Instagram, I always do videos on my Instagram which are educative. Every now and then you find lots of videos. I try to record at least 1 video a day on my Instagram. So instead of screenshotting, just go onto your Instagram and type in talks_property. I think on my Instagram, I've got roughly 135,000 followers. That account was opened as a family account. It's a family account that turned into a business account. And I've been consistent. Practice makes perfect. If you're just starting out and you're not getting the likes, you're not getting the followers, be persistent. Just continue. Because on my way down, I was thinking that I want to record another content. And the content I want to record next time is, all you content creators, don't be too hard upon yourself. Because content creators are like footballers. They don't score every day, do they? Content creators are like musicians. It's not all the album that is a hit. Some is a hit and miss. You win some, you lose some. Content creators are like students. Not everyone gets 100% in an exam. So why are we being hard upon ourselves as a content creator, thinking, oh, I'm not getting the following, I'm not getting the likes? Just continue to be persistent. Look at Tiwa. I was listening to Tiwa's story. How Tiwa had to go and beg this man to get signed on. And initially she got turned down. And she got turned down again until she got accepted. I know I'm on a pulpit, but late Aliyah said, once you don't succeed, pick yourself up and try again and again and again until you succeed. Any questions? That is me done.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Thank you very much. I follow you on Instagram actually for quite a while now. And there's just one topic you've not touched both on your Instagram and here. So that was one of the major reasons I actually came for this conference. And I'd like to ask, so when you buy your first property, because the property in Hertford, for example, is quite very expensive. And I was doing my bit of research, and if you want to buy a property, your first property, you have to live in your first property. So I want to first of all get a clarification if there's a way to go around that. Because if you go up north, for example, because like I said, I follow your post and I see you have loads of properties in Hull and all of that, and the property valuation in Hull City and up north is a bit cheaper than Hertford, because Hertford is you are looking about over 300. Your first deposit over 35,000 for a good property. So that's already like, how would I put it? It's not like it's too far-fetched, but when you're looking at growing a property portfolio, I don't think it's wise putting 35K as your first deposit when you can maybe buy 2 properties up north. So my question is this: is it possible to buy a property up north as your first property while you live in Hertford? Maybe buy a property of, say, 200K and you're paying like 20K deposit up north, and you stay in a place like Hertford, maybe use that for maybe business or whatever, rather than staying in Hertford and buying your first property and paying over 35K as your down payment. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay.